Hello, everyone. This is Manolo Concepcion. I am the new associate head coach at Eastern Illinois University, talking to you from my living room in Illinois, United States of America. But I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, where I had been able to coach at every level, including professionally, men's and women's. And now here in the U.S., I have been coaching junior college and then NCAA Division One. When this pandemic began, I wanted to create an educational project where we will talk less about the problems around us and more about solutions in our own game that we love. By meeting people from different volleyball communities and different parts of the world. Today, I'm honored and privileged to be joined by one of the greatest minds that we have right now living in the US, but from Italia, Milan, Mr. Giuseppe Vinci. How are you?
Hey, well, I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's great being able to have this conversation with you today, and talk a little analytics. Talk some numbers, and hopefully share some knowledge to all the viewers around the world that are watching right now. How are you spending, these times of crisis, Giuseppe? Are you and your family safe and healthy?
Oh, yeah. So I'm lucky because I always work from home, so not much has changed, except for the fact that this year I got back to coaching at Brigham Young University as a volunteer with the men's team, and I brought the pandemic along. So our season got cut short. It wasn't fun. And so didn't get to finish out the season this year. But as far as the rest of the family, we just had our first baby in January. Me and my wife Jackie, and
Congratulations!
thank you. And my mom came here right before the baby was born to
Wow.
spend a month or two with us, and she's still here because going back to Italy is a little bit of a challenge right now. But she's scheduled so far to go back to Italy tomorrow, and my family they're all doing well. But I grew up in the kind of the Bermuda Triangle of the pandemic, like in between Milan, Bergamo, the
Wow.
south of Milan. So I have some players that I coached maybe when I was 16, 17 that have lost a parent or a grandparent. So it hit closer to home. Luckily, not it didn't hit home all the way, which I'm grateful for.
Giuseppe, is the situation in Italy as bad as is presented in the media? You're from there. I want to gain your own perspective of how people are dealing with this situation in your country.
Well, the reality is that Italy was one of the, if not the first country, to really get hit. So now everybody has a little more information. Not that they're copying Italy, but they have a bit more information, right? And so it's easier. It's a little easier to react.
Hmm.
Italy got it right away, and naturally, it's hard to know now. We'll have to wait a little bit, but there was a soccer football. I'm gonna go the European way. The football
Hmm.
game in Bergamo, Champions League or European Champions League game that brought a ton of people together, and it was very close to Milan Fashion Week, that brings in tons of people from all over the world. Milan is the fashion capital of the world. Everybody kind of got together in Milan for that game,
Hmm.
and a lot of people say that's what just created that outbreak.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
it would be nice to hear if scientists confirm it, that a lot of people are doctors and scientists, not me, are saying, hey, that was really the one thing that if we had known in advance, that would have saved us a lot of heartache. But yeah, I think the newspapers are reporting it fairly well based on when I talk to my friends, my family, and so forth, and it's just this invisible enemy that you're like, hey, what do I do? It's just there's no way to feel 100% comfortable. So depending on the type of person you are, you live it a little more loosely, or you're really concerned. It's just people are different.
how is it affect is going to affect your professional league in Italy? Is it going
Well,
back?
it's already affected it quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I'm talking to a lot of friends just because I care about volleyball in general,
Mhm.
and I care about the Italian league and my friends in the league and the profession. And the league got canceled.
Mhm.
They might do some playing later on this summer and so forth, but uh, definitely it's gonna hurt because like one team already decided to not participate again in the men's top league.
Wow. Not
So
ever again then.
that they decided to not re-sign up. They said, "Look,
Mm.
we're done." So there are things like that which are bad and sad to hear, but at the same time, what I'm sharing with anybody that asks me my opinion, I'm like, "Hey, I hope this situation can get volleyball back to not normality, but back to sustainability and growth, like deliberate growth, like organic growth, rather than, oh, like let's put more money to get the best player, which in the last few years it has been a little bit about that, maybe, at least that's
Mhm.
my read. And maybe it gets us a little more into a let's treat a volleyball team on the pro side. We're not talking college now, more
Mhm.
like a small business.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
and let's make it what can help it grow organically. So we'll see. And there are some examples of that in Europe that are really interesting, and I believe that they'll come out of this with much gained strength. That's my opinion.
You started at 13 years old working for Palabolo Castello. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like,
Oh,
how did that happen? Is this normal for a 13-year-old in Italy right now?
I don't think so. But Manolo, you know what? We talked a little bit about what's going on in the world, and one thought just came to mind that I would like to share
Please
about
do.
what is going on in the U.S. With racism and all that. And I'm the biggest example, white, Western world male, right? And I have all the luck in the world regarding that. But uh, if I can say one thing, is just has been living in the U.S. and learning the history more and more about the history of Black history in the U.S. and so forth. Naturally, I know very little about it, but if I could say one thing that I heard from a lot of uh, African American friends here in the U.S. is just rather than giving our opinions and so forth, let's we have a chance to really listen and understand. Because as a white male, I have no clue. I really have no clue what it means to be of a different race, and race it's not even a thing to me, literally. But so I think it just came to mind as we talked about the pandemic. That is a big thing, but I think that what is going on in the last few days in the U.S. especially, and I'm seeing now also in Europe, speaking up some protests, is like I think all that it takes is for the privileged like me to just listen, and there's no way we'll ever understand it all. But anytime we think we have an opinion, we think we know, think that's when hey, let's stop a moment and listen and try to understand. There's no way we will ever understand. So
I
I
think
just want to
that
spend a minute as it came to mind, just
I
really
think
out of the blue. But
um,
I think it's good. It's the right thing to do, given what's going on.
I think that the struggle being happening right now in the U.S. is something that it's not new. It's something that has happened for around 200 years, and it's not just U.S. My own island of Puerto Rico, I know that we're part of U.S., but we suffer from the same thing. We were conquered by different countries and have, at some point of history, somehow always been slaves of someone else. Um, so going through the struggle of being listened, it's something that hit us hard, just because sometimes we feel that because you were mentioning, like, because you're not part of the same race, that you cannot talk further about it. But I feel that we are in this together somehow, some way, and I appreciate you saying that you want to listen throughout these times. Um, But I'll tell you this: I tell you that although I don't cannot condemn the riots or the violence that is been going on, I do want people to listen and to be able to understand that this is an issue, and it has not changed, and he has always been there. And just like people sharing that quote from Will Smith around, he has always been this way. It's just now getting filmed more often.
Yeah.
Social media has created that opportunity to get this issue out there. Um, am I grateful for that? No, but but at the same time, I am. I feel that we're lucky somehow to put this in perspective.
Yeah, let's take it as an opportunity.
For
Ultimately.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. So for all the people out there that are battling through any type of prejudice, no matter what it is, we feel you, we hear you, and we're hoping that unity, just like in volleyball, will come from knowledge. And when we fear something is when we start acting irrationally about it. So the more we know about the game, the more we know about life, the more we know about the history of how, where everyone comes from, the better we can treat each other, understanding and respecting those experiences. So you know I'm glad that you brought that to the attention of this program, because it is really important to me. So thank you again, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
uh,
And now let's get back to volleyball.
tell
So
me.
you asked me, how is it possible you start at 13? Well,
Yes.
long story short, uh, when I was 12 and a half or so, I had a long ankle surgery to remove an osteosarcoma from my bones, so a bone tumor.
Mhm.
And this was 98. And I remember the first checkup visit with the doctor who did the surgery, where he told me, look, you have to pick your high school now. Pick something that will get you a desk job.
Hmm.
Because if you want to walk when you'll be 60, you better not run, not jump, not do much stairs, hiking, because you have an ankle that we had to rebuild the bone and no cartilage and so forth. And at that time, I just developed earlier than my classmates and so forth. So I was a good athlete. I was a great athlete, I would say. But just because I developed earlier, which makes a big difference when you are 13 or so, right? And I loved sports because I was successful. And in our gym, the volleyball net was always up in my middle school, because to take it out, it was a mess. Like, you had to have tools and so forth. And so we played volleyball, and I liked it. My friends played it. So when this happened to my ankle, I just started going help out in the gym, because I wanted to be with friends, and I loved sports. And that's how I started. I will do the score sheet. I will shot volleyballs for practices. And then I started tossing balls. And then at 16, I got my coaching license. In Italy, to coach in the different leagues, you need to have a license. So I got it right at 16, and from there on. So that's how I got involved so early. In a way, I wish I would have played longer, but in another way, it has been somewhat of a blessing, because it gave me a really big head start. Because then, by the time, like, I went to the Olympic Games in 2008 when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years later, after that injury, okay, I was in the Olympic Games with Italy, and just around some of the best coaches you can think of. And so that formed, that was my youth and my adolescence, and kind of my young adulthood around these coaches. That
Who was the first coach that blew your mind, Giuseppe, that you were like, wait, okay, this is why I'm falling in love with the game?
Ooh. I think, honestly, from the very first coach that I've ever had, Chiara Losio. I think it's the first coach I've ever helped in the gym, and she was just super passionate. Like, she cared about it. Like, she had a university degree in exercise science. Now she runs a personal training gym, and she's very scientifical approach, very, like, professional, and does a great job. I even, when I'm or in the summer when I'm in Italy, just go get checked up by her, because then she beats up on me because, hey, you have to work out more, but whatever. And she just had this passion for the players, for what the players could learn through the game, and held them accountable to everything. And if we say we think, we do it. And that was what got me in love with it, is really understanding the fun I had doing sports that now was taken away. It didn't mean that I couldn't be part of a team and give something towards achieving something great as a team. And she put that into perspective, I would say. And then after her, I started being an assistant coach for another coach that got me actually into, hey, you need to know things to coach volleyball, not just tossing volleyballs and so forth. At the highest level, like top coaches, I was lucky to spend time with Montali. That himself, he was I don't remember what age he started coaching in the top division in Italy men's, but he was like in mid-20s.
Wow.
And he was winning with players that are just legends, right? And being around him got me an idea of what it means to really try to be perfect in the good and in the bad. Gianpaolo Medei was assistant coach when I went to the men's league after being on the women's side.
Tell me what makes him special. Like what is it that you got from him that you think that was his stamp of his
Montali's?
Yes.
Montali's stamp was that he expected perfection. He was really hard on players with anybody around, but all in function of protecting the group, the team.
Oh.
Like, I'm going to push you. I'm going to just be hard. But if somebody steps on your foot for something that is not for the team or within the team, you bet I'm going to be behind your back. I'm going to help you, and I'm going to fight for you. So it was tough. Like, it was not a dictatorship, right? But it was like these very high pressure, but the expectations were the same for everybody and so forth. I remember the first time I sat at the table, the national team with Montali as head coach, the doctor of the team that was a friend of mine and still is today, told me, look, don't speak, don't say anything. If you're asked a question, yeah, you can speak. And the first time that a question came up to me from Montali, I look at the doctor and he's like,
this time
you can speak. But see, it seems odd and bad from just like this, but it is.
I understand.
Really, hey, we want to win the Olympic Games. It's we want to shoot for perfection, and that was really good. And then I had plenty of other coaches after him. I had Anastasi and Gardini.
Oh, I want to
with Ricci, who was the head coach for Calcirai and Timmons in Italy in the 90s. I've been so lucky. I've been around some people that, oh my gosh. And some of the people that taught me, I've been around Carl McGowan for, like, he lived, 10 minutes from my house right now. And I will go visit and he will ask me. And I mean, I've been the luckiest, I've been so blessed by the people I've been able to interact with. And that formed how I approach volleyball as a coach. I approached the study of the game through stats and the ideas I had. And that's why I'm never held back from sharing stuff with anybody. And
tell me this: I'm being surrounded by these great minds. Did that teach you something about, like, never be the smartest person in the room?
Yes.
Try to be challenged by people around you. I bet that you were really, they put you in uncomfortable situations
all the time.
They challenge you to be better. Did that drive you?
Yes, it's a blessing and a curse. Right? It helped me a ton growing because I wanted to get better. Yeah. And I was young. I mean, I was 22, 23, like these ages, right?
You're still young, Giuseppe.
I'm 35 now, 35 in September. So
you're younger than me.
Yeah. Right. And I've done all this stuff, but it truly is what you did. It taught me not much about the game. Yes, there's that, but really what it means to be great. Like Karch a few weeks ago, Karch Karai, um, like he was having a webinar with
Yeah.
Italian coaches,
Mhm.
and they asked me, "Hey, Giuseppe, you work with Karch. Do you mind coming in? He speaks Italian, but if he prefers to do it in English, can you translate and make sure that it's done right?" I'm like, "Please have me come because I wouldn't want Karch's principles to not be understood because it's not just I do this, it's the principles, right?" So I went in, and Karch talked about something I love, and you hear all the times, this never-ending pursuit of mastery,
Oh, love that.
and that's my life. I just struggle to stay still. Like, hey, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse because somebody else is getting better, and it's not for the sake of being better than somebody else.
Hmm.
It's for the sake of progress and learning and improving. Because when you're not learning, and like in anything, not just volleyball, you get stuck, you get lazy, and I got lazy many times in my life.
Hmm.
So, but that's the reality. So that mentality is like the never-ending pursuit of mastery. That's what it is, and I've seen it over and over. Some places more, some places less. Some people, players, have such great talent that they can get by with less of that mentality.
Mm.
But it has to be, and it's a curse because today. Uh, so in 2015, I stopped being an active coach with Brigham Young University, and I decided to focus on Volumetrics, which is a company I've built. And So for 4 seasons, I was out. Like I wasn't on the court every day, and I struggled. And I had that team that I picked the people I worked with on my company. They were dedicated. They knew what we were going to achieve and all of that. We were really tight, just like a team, like the culture you want in a team. But my standards are always like thinking about what comes next, what comes next. And I had to learn that in some environments you need to manage that, and you cannot just always be pushing and thinking, "Oh, this is great, but what about this? What about that?" It
That's
taught me
something that it happens to me, Giuseppe. Like I just
same as coaching.
and I feel, yeah, I feel that it's not that it's never enough, but I'm always looking for what's next. And
Oh,
there,
yeah.
and we, we as coaches sell this fact about leaving the moment and and focusing on the process, but then us as coaches are always thinking about, okay, what's
That's
next, what's next, what's next,
yeah.
how can we get better, what's the new thing out there that we can implement.
Yeah, and so that's the curse. And the other part of it is that because I've been around so many great coaches for such a long time,
Mhm.
since I was really young, now being in, after my company was acquired by Huddle, which is a large multinational company, as far as coaching solutions go, is the leader in the world, like just for size, for products, for teams, and all of that. And I have to remember that it's not that for many people a job is just a job, but I've been around the top of the top for so long. Not everybody's like that,
Mhm.
and there's a different way of life for many people, and it's fine. It's not, hey, what, you are not putting in enough work. It's like, hey, there's a difference. So that's a challenge for me. The curse of that never-ending pursuit of mastery is the fact that not everybody is into that. They have other priorities, that are different people, and that's fine. No, so that good and bad.
Giuseppe, being surrounded with these people, and then rest in peace, Carmack Gown, was someone that was around you all the time. What have you discovered about the key of learning? Okay, we know, of course, about the loss of learning, but what do you think that all these masters in learning have in common?
Study, studying, and hard work. Okay, I think the hard work is, if you put in a lot of hard work up front early on, it helps you a ton.
Mm-hmm.
But studying, like so many examples. I moved to the U.S. in 2008 after the Beijing Olympics, and I come to the US, and within 10 months, Anastasi, Gardini, Zanini, three Italian coaches, they are visiting me here to study. And we go visit the US gym. That at that point I was working with USA as well. We spend time with Carl, all of that, and studying, and also picking what you want to study, because you cannot be great at everything until you have years and years and years of time to study. And Carl is the example. I remember watching some stuff with Carl McGowan and talking technique, and I felt like I was nobody at the very first time, because that we watched video together, because the video plays, and usually, I mean, you watch video, you pause, you watch what happens, slow motion, then you pause again, you play, pause, and you see the rally. And maybe you watch it 2 or 3 times. And Carl presses play, because it used to VHS, kind of. So it's like, yeah, he pauses everything. It was good with technology, but pauses, watches the rally all the way, and he starts telling me, did you notice this blocker just made this move while the setter was looking and decided to run gap red to isolate, because the blocker, like, he was loading for the middle. And he reads all these tactical things, and then he starts talking about the technical things, and I'm like, oh, you watched the rally once, and he was telling me 15 things. I'm like, I'll never be able to do this. And he said, well, once you studied volleyball for 60 years, then you'll be able to do it. So I'm like, that makes sense. So I don't have to expect to be great at everything. It's like that one thing, like, decide what to study. I want to be great at this, and then I'll learn all I can.
And I love that concept of, like, the people like, Dr. McGowan and the other people that you have been around, that they dare to make mistakes, they dare to take this risk, they dare to try things. In fact, Giuseppe, would you share with us some of the things that you used to do in the beginning of you messing around with your stats and research and stuff?
Oh yeah, there's plenty. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing, and I'll show you some stuff since you asked. I was able to pull out some stuff from back in the days to today and all of that.
Yeah,
the biggest thing is the biggest, not mistake, but the biggest evolution that I've had personally, and I think it's happening in the US and abroad. I start to see it more and more, is the change of mindset to a growth mindset in a way. Also in this area of the sport, where before it was very much scouting opponents, validating a performance, things like that. And this is the way you do it. Data Volley gave us that framework, great, and people followed it, got very good at it. But then we kind of slowed down. It's like, oh, this is the way to do it. And we missed, I think, for a little while. We got back to opponents, validate the performance, and not like pushing the envelope, not getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, just presenting the data, but not converting it into actual information.
Exactly. And simply getting away to seeing the game and reading the game and looking at things that ultimately are subjective. The numbers should be objective, but I cannot details that are subjective. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. And as far as kind of how things go, I mean, something practical. Let me share the screen and just to show you something really practical here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna close here. See, I just dropped stuff in this folder. So in 2002, I was 17 to whatever today and beyond. Yeah, you see this straight out of Data Volley, okay, in Italian and everything. This is a team that we were in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6th or 7th. This is the 7th.
Giuseppe, sorry that I interrupt you. If you present something, if you can put it full screen.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, that will be perfect. So that way people can see it on their homes.
Yeah, let me make it bigger like this, probably.
Okay.
This is good, right?
Sounds good.
So this was the very first things I've ever done. Okay, so
Okay.
just straight up numbers. Read this number. What does it mean? Figure it out.
Hmm.
Other things were like this is a course they gave for the Italian volleyball certifications for coaches, where it's less. Hey, but you can even start from things like that. Just to know where your receivers are good on the left, on the right, in front with their hands, and writing notes, and just put a plus, a minus, whatever you decide, just on paper, and then do it for your passing line and see what's going on. So these was what I will do before, right? Just more tied to technique, right? And and eventually became more and more just numbers, performance, something like this. And that translated. Now let me pull something real quick up here. Also in kind of how you created scout reports on your team or others. Like this is a scout report from 2005, probably. Yeah. See, in here, there's still you've got some number, not much, and the concept was, hey players, I want you to go in and write and be part of what we're telling you to do.
Hmm.
Okay, uh, like we don't have to just tell you, oh, this is how it is, this is how it is, but it's more like we want you to be part of it. So as we talk, take notes, be engaged, and then you fast forward. I don't know, just a few years. I'll just bring something up from even just BYU. Where do we have?
Again, we're talking to Giuseppe Vinci. He is the creator and founder of Volumetrics, and also has been involved with multiple Olympic teams and pro league teams as well. And he's sharing some of the information and data that he has collected throughout the years and the formats that he has used. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and this 2015 is whatever 10 years later. Like we're giving all this information to players, which is great. And again, it could be good for this team. Maybe it was a mistake, but see, numbers and all of this. And we tried to keep it simple, right? But ultimately, you see how it went, like from including the players to now we write everything down. And if you think about it today, I think we're back at that. We're back at saying, hey, players, be involved, be engaged. So I think it's like fashion in a way, right? That, oh, what worked in the 70s didn't work in the 80s and 90s, then it came back and so forth. So in a way, these are not concepts that are new, right? Like engaging. So that
Did it get to a point that it was like too much information and then people got back to where it was, or how
oh yeah. Like I'll see this is a perfect set because look, just something else came to mind. Like when I got to the US in 2008, I was convinced that this is all that we would have to give to players. Just look, there are these 4 situations we want you to know about and care about. Meaning, okay, if the setter is in this area on a good pass, hey, outside hitter, watch out for the slide. If there's this setter call, outside hitter, get inside and middle blocker, dedicate to the gap. That's it. Hey, if the setter moves around, hey, middle blocker, go towards the outside. And if the ball gets off the net, hey, right side get inside, and the left side just look at the right side hitter on the other side.
Repeat the year that you were working with this, Giuseppe.
Yeah, this was like my approach is like, hey, we need to keep it simple, super simple, and also the level of play, right? It's college volleyball. I just came from the Olympics right before, all of that. So I was convinced, hey, less is more. Maybe this was a little too less, right? So eventually, over time, it evolved into a lot of things. Like this is what I will use in the pro league. Like yes, some numbers and the first Excel sheets. So this is 2007. So data volley, yes, but let's put stuff outside of data volley so that we can do things a little differently, okay, and look at things that we want to look at that are maybe a little more advanced. And you see, like it's not super different than today. I want to know based on the reception, as the setter moves one way or the other, by rotation. Okay, how much do they run the different routes, middle routes, and so forth. So you see, or what do they do when this middle is in front row, when this middle is in the front row. Let's sum up the rotations based on where the setter comes in from. So see, I mean, this is literally whatever, 10, oh my gosh, 13 years ago. And this is all based on who passes. If this setter receives the ball, hey, this is this distribution. If this receiver, sorry, this outsider.
Tell me 13 years ago, what from this type of charts, what type of information were coaches interested in you sharing with them? So you gather all this great data, put it in great charts. So how much do you share with the players, and how much do you share with the coaches?
So with the players at that time, I feel like much less than today.
Okay.
It was more the video meeting and go, right? But the coaches were ready, like we knew, and it was very like actionable things, usually that we knew, we studied. I think that today the players are more and more involved. One example of that, 2012 Olympics, I'll show you one thing that the players I know loved. Okay. Let me find it. Well, here we go. I mean, I know our middles loved this, where, it was Team USA at the Olympics, but the BYU logo is still there because, I don't know, I probably didn't take it away. But like the color tells me where the setter sets to, and I can look at this and be like, okay, this is where she sets the go from. This is where she sets the right side from, the middle blocker, and the pipe. Just very visual. And based on the setter call, what does she do? And I remember the middle blockers liking this a lot. Visual, quick, they wanted it. And again, it's not rocket science, okay? It's just, hey, these were kind of the first attempts at going from something that was more data-oriented to something more visually oriented. In fact, kind of, this is what people are used to, right? Oh, I've got all my tables and my data volley tables and all sort of things, right? But ultimately, that was the first attempt of starting to get into more visual and so forth, and getting out of
basically the objective that you had throughout these years was not just making it better for coaches, but how do you make it user friendly for the player, so that way it can increase information transfer by simplifying the actual data.
Yeah, it's finding things that are actionable, practical, even if they are super broad. Just how many points did we score, in what skills, and where did we lose that battle? I don't know. People talk a lot about blocking is not so important, right? It might be true. Different levels of play. Like if you go down to the 12 years old, block is not important at all, right? As you go higher and higher, everything gains importance because it's maybe 1 point that makes the difference. And just not looking just at the raw amount of it or just the percentage, but being able to say, oh yeah, I just got 3 block stuffs and my opponent's got 8, but I tooled them 20 times, then they tooled me 3 times. So like started looking at actionable things where I'm like, I'm actually interpreting the data, because you can interpret it. If you become real good, I mean, you look at the numbers, you can interpret and do it fast. But as much as our brain is just a magnificent computer, pretty much, if I can ask a machine to interpret a few things for me and show me the actionable insights that I can make decisions on based on how I interpret that data, that's the ultimate goal. So how do I simplify it down to a single number, right? And I went that route. That's how volumetrics got started, straight up.
So you wanted to empower people with tools to make decisions, not to just provide data, but basically make decisions quickly and effective based on information instead of just data.
Get away from having to spend the days, the weeks on the computer building an Excel spreadsheet and with whatever you want, and spend more time with the player. Spend more time trying to recruit a player, whether you're a college team or a pro team. Spend more time preparing a practice, studying what some people are doing in I don't know, motor control or motor learning, or all sort of things. Right? Just be a coach, be a coach, and that's how volumetrics came to be, because I wanted to do those two things. First, get things simple enough where I could trust just a few numbers to tell me how well are you doing in each skill, and so forth. And two, so that was the main thing. But as I built those studies, I'll share my screen again and show you, I had to get away from data volley. Like initially, the very first, I showed you 2007, whatever, I would export the data from data volley in worksheets and put it in Excel and build my Excels. Then you start using macros and some visual basic, that is basic programming. Anybody can learn it. I'm not a genius. And to build more interactive Excel spreadsheets. And the one I showed you with the statistics, for example, like this one, just as an example, this is an Excel spreadsheet that as you put X's under the team, it makes totals of just those matches or those practices. I used it for practice as well. And see these World Cup, Grand Prix finals, so forth, right? And but you just outgrow Excel because you're like, hey, I want to see trends. I want to do benchmarking. So I started to do stuff with statistics departments and using real statistics. Because at the end of the day, this is arithmetic. Right? You're doing 35 over 69. It's
Giuseppe, quick question. Can you tell me some of the important people in this process of you developing volumetrics that help you behind the scenes? Just a shout out to some of the people that have been involved with the growth of this process.
So with volumetrics, I will say that the people that pushed me the most to get it out were really the coaches challenging me. I'm very good friend with Jamie Morrison. From Jamie, just really spending a lot of time, just me challenging him and vice versa. Well, I'm not the reason why I think he's one of the best coaches in the world. But I think it made us grow a lot and change our mindset to, hey, we have to look at things from a more coaching technical perspective, subjective at times, and simplify, and look at science and lean on science. I'm never going to be a statistician. Sometimes I wish I studied statistics, but I'm not. So through all these people, Jamie's one, Hugh McCutcheon is another, Karch, who is very great coach and also very good analytically and technology-wise. Carl McGowan. And then I was on coaching stuff with Chris McGowan and others, Rob Nilsson, Mike Wilton. There are way too many names to just cover them all. But I think who helped the most is these people and kind of pushed me to say, hey, you're onto something.
Okay.
You're not thinking outside of the box was good, right? And one thing that now comes to mind is just working with Carl.
We're talking to
just really acknowledging, hey, you are creating something, you're studying. This is not just you playing with a computer. You're studying the game. You're beyond just studying opponents and all that, and that's what matters, right? So all these coaches, and then in the practical way, I had a couple friends that helped me out. Austin Hayden, was a roommate of mine in college and all that. He quit a job at Ernst & Young because it's like, I cannot stand the big corporate job. and he drove over to Reno, Nevada, to meet with me and a graduate student statistician that I was working with to build statistical models. And then all the people of Volumetrics, Corley, Bagley, all the developers, and what we came up with at that point, here we go. It was something along these lines. I mean, make it bigger.
Is that the first version of Volumetrics?
Yeah, this is the first ever report that we built for Volumetrics. And Volumetrics started because I outgrew Excel, and I outgrew my ability to code in R and all of that. And I go back to what I said, like, yeah, what do I want to study? Do I want to study how to learn a software, or do I focus on the volleyball? And I have somebody help me with that. And that's what I did, to say, graduate student in statistics, I have this thing that I want to do, let's work on it. And so see, June 2013, we went out to Reno, there was World League in there, and we said, hey, see, for first effort, it is the first.
Wow.
Five essential aspects of the sport of volleyball. Okay, and we welcome feedback.
Tomorrow is the anniversary.
Oh my gosh, you're right. And see, we got our data set, blah, blah, blah. And
yeah,
what we attempted, there we go, I'll just go here. It's like, okay, skills importance. Okay. Skills importance, like within skills, what is the most important thing? Like, okay, an attack kill, then a great or a perfect pass. We know this stuff. A bad serve, which means that you get a great or a perfect pass. Like, these were the things. Like, what is important? Let's get this out there with scientific rigor. And okay, the probability, whatever, all these kind of things. And okay, what are the most important positions? Okay, and we're like, wait, this doesn't look right. Like the outside hitter, what is going on here? And so we started looking at it. What is going on? Okay, and we figure out, well, the outside hitter is very important based on these two, like serve, attack, then passing. Then I got the attack and serve for middle blockers. So by position, what are the important things? And okay, by rotation, which skills are important in which rotations? Now, just to take a look at it, which phases of the game? How important is first ball point scoring, first ball side out, like all these things. Let's start looking at it. So
at that point, what was really important? What was number one skill, and what was the number one phase that was important towards winning? And was it the same for, in the two genders or no?
Yeah, it was more or less the same in both genders. Like I don't have this report on the women's side from the same year, but one thing I learned that these, unless they will make big changes to the rules, it's not going to change much from what you see. And you see what is the most important skill. Like one could say attacking, because a kill is more important than this. But as you look at it, you're like, okay, a great or a perfect pass and a terrible serve. The setting, I leave it out because it's so different from grading. But these three are so high. They are like, this is more important than this together. So serve, receive, like hands down, hands down. And you see that then an error or a blocked attack, it's as important as getting a perfect free ball, because that turns into a point so fast, or a good pass or a poor serve. And you get the idea. If you look at both the creating points and the avoid giving points, meaning a terrible serve, so receive naturally is the most important, then attack. And that hasn't changed much, if anything.
Giuseppe, your program is able to be reaching different levels right now, from club, college, pro, national teams. There in those levels, how does it change? With the data that you have for clubs, in comparison to college, in comparison to pro, in comparison to national team, like any big trends that you see that you are either surprised by it or that at least are different from each level?
Yeah. So I gave a presentation to ABCA 3-4 years ago about that specifically, the American Volleyball Coaches Association. I think was very good. I don't remember everything, the numbers in my head, so I would honestly refer back to that. But and we have it by age groups,
Mm-hmm.
from Olympics to D1 to U18, U16, boys and girls, and there's naturally a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, at the lowest level, I mean, if you can serve it in, you score. Like serving is an advantage in at many of the levels of play at the lower level. Once you get to a little higher level, serve you don't want to serve. No, if there was a bonus, a special rule that you can say, hey, the next 5 minutes I only receive. Oh, that would be nice. No, power play, volleyball power play, whatever. Like so, that changes up. Definitely changes a lot across levels of play. I'm sorry that cannot pull out numbers
No,
specific.
no, 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 no. Hey, I also want to tell you, I just want to give some shout outs here. I cannot mention people because of by NCAA rules, but I can tell you that they're watching from Rome.
Oh
They're
wow!
watching from, of course, the U.S., Puerto Rico, places in South America as well, Germany, Greece. So yeah, so we have people around the world watching you right now. You want to give a shout out in Italian to your country, Giuseppe?
In Italia, non so cosa dire. Quel che posso dire è che l'Italia rimane per me la nazione dove la pallavolo ha il più grande potenziale. Ci sono tantissimi allenatori preparati che vogliono studiare, che studiano a tutti i livelli di gioco, e quella è la nostra forza. Allo stesso tempo, no, è bello anche vedere come stiamo evolvendo come allenatori italiani e così via. Quindi, anche se sono all'estero, rimango tanto connesso con l'Italia. La cosa che mi spinge anche a migliorare. Okay. And I know, Manolo, that you understood quite a bit of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My Spanish Italian was able to understand a little bit of it, but no, that's and by the way, we hope that everyone is safe and healthy out there. Giuseppe, and then continuing talking about your program, then that was 2013. It has become a monster now. And tell me when you felt that this was something, when you knew that this was really something that I was going to make a worldwide impact.
Yeah. So, you know what? I'll show you what came next to what I just showed you, the skills importance. So
yeah,
Volumetric started with the idea of, I want to take it to the next level where I really understand the importance of the skills and all of that. The model I had built before, we came out of the Olympic Games in 2012 where we lost the gold medal, and it was telling me that certain players were better than I knew they were for many reasons. And I'm like, we need to improve that. I want to know more. And so after that, just the skills important, we started creating the skills importance, and then we started looking at how do we evaluate a player, okay? And we started creating, these performance index for individuals and teams, okay? And this performance index gave us, here we go, by team, like how much a skill takes us to a point, okay? And eventually, by team, eventually made it by player, okay? And here we go. So outside hitters, odd. Taylor Sander was the number one outside hitter in the men's Division I conference at that time. And you see that I've got all of these performance indexes here by skill, and then I have an overall performance index. So I get it's a number from 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing this. I want to be able to recruit the right players, to make the right players play beyond just a cauldron, and give the right weight to the right skills that maybe we're not seeing, and give me a chance to interpret the performance. And so that's what we were doing, by skill, by position, and all of that. The challenge here was that the moment that coaches started asking me, Giuseppe, I want to do this on my data and so forth, we hit a wall where the data I was getting wasn't as consistent. What I was doing back then is I would have a couple student managers rewatch every match and correct the data, or gather the data from scratch. Because, I mean, you know it, like I got to the US in 2008, there were maybe 3 or 4 people that knew data volley well. And so the data you will get wasn't that great. And so I will recode it or correct everything. And that would allow me to do statistical studies that made sense. I will get data from other teams and it's like, oh, crap. So initially, I had these student managers. I told them, look, ask them whatever much money you want to code everything for them during spring, summer, and then I can run the study and give it to them. I wouldn't make any money out of it. And eventually I realized, okay, if we have to do this, we have to do it. It's better to not code everything for every team over and over, but let's just code everything. And to do that, we need to just have a more open mindset as a coaching world. Just who cares about who has my video? Like, remember, you had to call one friend to ask the video for the other team. It was a 3-way exchange at some point, like sometimes.
It was really hard. It was really hard. You know, I have horrible stories from my friends also in Puerto Rico where they're trying to share their games and it's different coding, you know, and different ways of evaluating specific skills. And, you know, they basically needed to restart every single element. And now this kind of like uniforms everything, right?
Yeah. And so with that, what happens, like, okay, let's just, at that time with USA and BYU, I was already, just to save time so that I could dedicate time to studying the game, we were recording practices from IP cameras.
Tell me about that, because I know that you brought something to the game that is what it was really innovative at that point. Talk a little bit about that element that you brought to the table.
Yeah, in 2010, I think, I was able to convince BYU and USA to put IP cameras in their gym so that recording the practice and the match was just an easy thing. At that point, you had to capture the video into your computer with a capture card, things like that. Or you had to take the SD card, compress the video, merge. It will take forever. With the IP camera, you had the video right away, and you didn't have to run cables. Just one camera fixed there. So I did that, put multiple cameras so that we would have multiple angles for practice and use multiple angles in practice and after practice to show the players. And one day I was sick. I wanted to watch practice, but I was at home, and I call up IT. So the office, the technology office of the university, I'm like, hey, can I access these cameras from off campus? They gave me a URL that was valid for whatever, 2 hours, and I could watch practice from home. I'm like, oh, it means that I can record the practice from home.
It was light from there. There was something that.
Yeah, and the next step was, look, at that point, the data project video exchange will do the job, but basically that video exchange was a server in Jenny Auch's office at Colorado State.
Wow.
And so when she was on the road and the computer will crash, you would have to wait the weekend out and things like that.
Wow.
So I'm like, you know what? Let's just give a camera like this to everybody in the country. And all the video goes in one place.
What do you say there? What do you say about, like, what was the old version of things? How did everything happen before that? Before your idea?
Yeah, I mean, you will capture a video, upload it to the data project or Easy Exchanges or Access. There were different companies. And then you will exchange it with other people. With Volumetrics, the change was, look, everybody, you have a camera, gives a standard of quality, standard of timing. Nobody has an excuse to not share video with everybody. And at that point, I said, look, and if you want to buy from us, we're going to analyze every match in no matter what. We're going to make that investment. I'm going to make that investment. We're going to tag everything. And if you want, you can buy the service from us, not to substitute the data person, but to make that person evolve to somebody who studies the game, like I had the chance to do. And the people that code, those can be people that just code. they should know volleyball a bit, but they don't need to be super advanced at knowing volleyball. They can be just somebody that helps you gather the data live and so forth. The rest of the work has to be the study of the game, the study of the opponent stuff. And that's kind of where volumetrics took off, because I was able to start to use some of the studies that I showed you, like the performance indexes, skills importance, that were very useful to teams. But quickly, as it started being a business and we started having costs, and we were tagging hundreds of matches a day, okay?
How many people? How many people?
Oh,
like how many people then?
We started with three. We started with three the first year. At one point, I think the highest point was 90.
You had 3 people the first year, and you were coding how many matches per
I was shout out to the first 4 teams to believe in it. They were Bowling Green State, Daniela.
Daniela told me.
Northern Illinois University.
There you go.
With Ray. Who was, I think, Central Michigan, but the MAC, the Mid-American Conference.
Okay.
And to them was just, that was the value. It's like, I can focus on study. And that's where, to me, is like, okay, this is not stats video. This is free up time for the coaches to get better. Not with perfect data, but with consistent data. And initially, we would code with Data Volley, but eventually we used our own application that how it grades the data, like after the first year, how it gathers the data is we just know we have 3 data points that a human puts in. Everything else is the computer. The quality of the reception, the directions, the speed of the ball, all of that. It's the computer, which doesn't mean that the data is perfect. We do quality control and all of that, but it means that it gives you a baseline of data to start from that gives you an ability to study the game more in depth. That is unbelievable. And that was the goal. Volumetric was, this is the content archive. Start from here, so that, and then do whatever you want from there on, right? In fact, on volumetrics, I'll share my screen and show a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people know it. Some people don't, so I don't want to make assumptions.
That's okay.
There you go. So this is the volumetrics website, okay? And I'll make it a little bigger. And you can go in and just naturally there haven't been matches played in a long time, but you can go in and see. In between January 24th and June 1st, I've got 3,900 matches on here, okay? And I can go and look find whatever I want. Like, these are our matches that don't have video, but if I go look at Brigham Young University, these are all the matches for Brigham Young. If I want to look at Lube, okay, here's their last matches. And I can go and, aside from having the data, study the game. And as long as I put my video, I get other people's video. It's just a big archive where you collaborate to build that archive. And as you open a match, you can go and watch it. Like you say, I want to watch, I hear this Guantorena, I've never seen him. Okay, let's look at his attacks in this match that is against a good team. Okay, and that's the thing. Now I realize one thing. Let me stop the shame. But I logged in as an administrator, so you risk to be able to see comments by other people. So let me switch to my college account.
Okay.
So I don't think about things that are important. So let me change account that way. There you go.
Okay.
So, see, here I'm logged in as BYU, so I don't have the comments and all that. But I can go in, and as a college athlete or a college coach, I can go in and watch this guy play and see, okay, what does he do, and watch the best volleyball there is in the world, or my opponents. That's the concept of getting better. But beyond that, the approach is, because we have the standardized data that a computer does the evaluation for, I can do whatever study I want and start from there and add more data, more subjective data. And that subjective data can be a lot of different things. Okay, so here I just I'm just watching a match, I can find any content I want from my matches, my opponents. I have all my practices. So I have multi-angle practices, all of that. If I go in this section, because I'm a college team, I find all the professional volleyball that I want. That is on our platform because teams work with us. Then I have stats where, I mean, you saw the tables before. This is nothing more than what I did in myself, like for my team, but shared with everybody pretty much. Where instead of putting the X's on the Excel sheets, you just click and you add stats for the last 4 matches. And you can go and look at scoring. How do we score by rotation in total in all the different phases? When missed serves are taken out of the picture, how good am I? All sort of things like that. And it makes it available to everybody to start studying and learning a bit more, finding good players and all of that. Then we start working on reports, and we learned quickly that, yeah, those reports that I showed you, like these ones, they're great. They give you, the best players, but to have coaches believe in the scientific methods behind this, it's very difficult because we don't all understand stats. And so we're like, hey, this is not useful for them. Let's take a step back and give them something that helps them in the short term, okay? And that's where we came up with the reports that I will print for my team. We just added them to Volumetrics, and boom, now you have summaries on your opponents or on yourself, reception analysis.
Can you put it bigger a little bit more?
Yeah, I can make it bigger. Sorry about that. Here you go. So how well do you receive? Where do you receive well? On your left, on your right, with your hands, by rotation. Then all the serving. Here, there's a lot of serves, so it's a little too much, but you get the idea based on the types of serves. Then the setter distribution, red zone, so above 20 within 2 points. And that's tough to do in data volley, but here you got it, and all of that. So just give people access to this, or based on how much the setter gets off the net, what does he set? Quick, all of that. And then all the usual distributions, right? And by rotation. Then we got some heat maps. And I don't love heat maps for shot charts. I like them for studies. But in this case, it tells me, okay, the red is where the setter likes to set the quick from. Other than that, don't care about it in the different situations. Or repeats, okay? The setter, after a kill, gives the ball back to this player 42% of the times. And within the same rally, if she doesn't kill the ball, the setter goes back to her 57% of the times. And this is stuff that I had before. Like if I open these 2012 Olympics, for example, and I go low enough, let's see where you are. I have to find it. Yeah, I will do it in Excel, okay? But here it automated everything. It helps me a ton. And I have more data, like covers are separate from digs, saves are graded and all of that. And then all the kind of location of the setter and so forth. And
my favorite one, and it's a simple one, but it's really good. It has been a really good visual for players, for example, in my team. Is presenting them with, for example, their hitting percentage according to the set that they get. And according to the set and pass that they get, very visual for the players that we have on the team, and they like that specificity. But yeah, please go ahead and because I love what you're going to show as well, the visuals here.
Yeah, and what you said is important. Like now I showed you that table with all the numbers from when in 2002, right? And 2003, 2002. We will never show stats to those players because it's just what can you digest and what is useful to you, right? So we wouldn't show numbers because we were worried how they will react. You have to educate your players and understand everybody's different, right? They might ask questions, come to you, and you share with them. You have to know your players and spend time with the players. And that's one of the benefits I got from Volumetrics, is that, okay, I don't have to worry about finding matches. They're all there. I have the baseline data right there. I can watch it real quick if I'm in a hurry. I can look at real quick stats, some reports, and these visual analytics. Yes, I'm going to do my own study on top of it. I'm going to add my own details or correct the receptions or whatever it is that I don't like. But it's the baseline start. And because I have the location data, and again, it's not perfect, but it's pretty spot on.
A good baseline. It saves so much time because of that opportunity of just make, even if you have the version of with data volley key, you have the opportunity to just correct a couple of things and then just create your own.
Yeah. And so you can go in and say, okay, I want to see what do they do when the setter is more or less in the center of the net, and the reception comes from in front of the setter. Or what do they do when there's a short serve? Okay? And you can look at all of this. Or I want to see when when a specific player receives and attacks. Okay, what is his efficiency and what does he do? Right, like just things like that. Very ready to go. Right. So that was the concept here. Not much to, you have to use just volumetrics. Not at all. Volumetrics is a tool where, again, you get the video, you get some baseline data, and you can quickly go and watch this stuff. In Europe, more for recruiting purposes, and in college, also for everything else. And more importantly, you can also share it with players. Players have access to this, and they become part. They can learn on their own and watch high-level volleyball and so forth, right?
Is there a phone version, like, or an app version coming up, Giuseppe? Like, or what are the newer things that you project happening for it?
So with the fact that Volumetric was acquired by Huddle.
By the way, are we safe to say that you are a multi-millionaire right now?
I'm a multi-billionaire. No, I mean, to me, like, it was hard to say, do we want to kind of be acquired or not? Yeah. Ultimately, the truth, what is it? I told you the story, right? We started Volumetrics because we wanted to, we need to do this analysis. Mm-hmm. I cannot do it on data that comes from everywhere. Mm-hmm. I need to standardize it. And as I standardize it, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to analyze everything in the US, abroad. So since people are interested in it, let's do it. Let's give them some features that can be useful to them and build this open exchange, open archive for everybody. Mm-hmm. And let's keep doing research and share the data. Everybody can download the data and all of that. And from there, when Huddle came into the picture, the concept was for me that, and I don't want to like kind of sound like I'm accusing somebody, but I think that Volley had the same challenge where the number of volleyball teams in the world are a limited number. The market is this big, right? And you cannot keep innovating at a cost that keeps going up when what you're bringing in revenue-wise is the same. So that would have happened at some point to Volumetrics as well, because the number of volleyball teams in the world is a finite number. So
so you saw a limit coming in, where
I would have had to stop
a peak. You saw a peak.
Yeah, where I'm like, I will want to keep researching, keep improving, but how will we keep doing it? Also, right? And maybe there would have been ways, but with Huddle works with the top sports organizations in the world, right? NBA, Premier League, top rugby in Australia and New Zealand and in Europe, volleyball teams, the top volleyball teams in the world. And there's a lot that works for all these organizations and that has worked that we don't have in volleyball. And I'm like, look, Huddle is going to keep improving all of this across all sports. And you know what? Volleyball is going to benefit from it. Mm-hmm. Maybe not as quickly as Volumetrics can do a few things, but in the long run, this is going to be a game changer. And now I start seeing it because I've spent a lot of time in the last months, years, like year probably, with the top organizations that are out there for sports. And I've learned a lot. And going back to what we said at the very beginning, you said, what is the one thing that you kind of saw the mistake, one of the mistakes you made? Like I said, the one mistake is probably that I got so close-minded with, this is the data you gather, this is how it's structured, this is where it is, this is the reports you have, that I forgot that, I can do more and more. So I got out of there by kind of studying volumetrics to then realize that I'm not a statistician, so I have to ask help from other people and huddle as tools that allow me to do a lot more of that teaching and volleyball specific work.
Basically, empowerment. You're empowering people by creating more freedom of getting in this, giving people a baseline, and then from there, them being able to create on their own.
You have to personalize. It has to be your style of coaching. And in that regard, like, I'll show you this real quick. I haven't used volumetrics data volley in a while. Okay, like in a long while, and because it had limitations, like talked about it, which is not a bad thing. It's just, this is what it does. Get smart and get going on what you really want to do.
Giuseppe, are you allowed to say who created the basic, the other software that you're using now? Like,
it's software by Huddle.
Okay.
It's called Sports Code, and it's what really the top sports organizations in the world use in football, in soccer, depending if you're from Europe or from the US, football/soccer, in rugby, in basketball, and all the Olympic sports, field hockey, ice hockey, and it's the standard. And it allows me to do things for coaching that are just much better for me. I'm not going to give you a demo, but I'm going to show you, just the fact that I can do multi-angle and easily, quick, simple. The fact that if I want to just watch all the first ball side outs, I double click and there we go. I've got first ball side out, multi-angle, first ball side out. Okay. And I can watch it and do whatever I want. Most importantly, I can go and add whatever data I want. So if I want to put, and this is what I do, when I rewatch my opponents, I want to go in and add, as I watch, just some keys, whether they're technical or tactical keys. Okay, so let's say that I'm watching, let me do one thing here. I'll just select one angle, let's say serving, and I want to go and say, I want to review technicals keys for serving. This can be your arm when you toss the ball. This can be your approach, whatever it is for you. I don't have to tell you what are your keys to execute a great serve. As you watch the video, which you do because you're watching it to review how's this player doing, you can go and add whatever data you want, whatever technical keys you want. Okay. And what this allows me to do, okay, is I can then reference that data, whether it's technical or tactical. I can go and pull it out and build reports that are connected to video. Like this is one that I'm building right now. Like I can go in and say, I want to see BYU in system attacks from the left side. And here we go. I got them all. Oh, and I killed the software by mistake. There we go. So that's a bit the concept, and it's hard to do it in just a few moments. But the idea is, once I have the baseline data, I want my coaches to, as I review video, add that baseline, that additional context, that expert data. Okay, that allows me to make
you're able
decisions
to.
that are more actionable.
Yes, so like anyone can do it, and can do expert custom made modifications in a user friendly way.
Oh yeah,
Right.
super
So I
easy.
want to evaluate, Giuseppe's arm swing. I can code that specific element and then
You can
go.
use the mouse or use a hotkey, but basically, instead of being fixed to a set of data like fields, those fields are unlimited and they can be whatever you want. I import in data from jumps, landing, impact data. I import speed of the serves. Instead of telling the serve was an ace or an error or whatever, I know that, but I want to know, did you serve in a seam or not? And
You
so I
can
have
you can filter. Hey, give me the times that he served over 100. No, like over like 70 miles per
in
hour.
this speed range. Yeah, in this speed range. And
Nice.
you can then build a report that tells you, okay, Manolo is above, Manolo top speed is, I don't know, 70 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
80% of 70 miles per hour is 56 miles per hour.
Man,
That
so
freaks me out. That was fast math. But whatever. And, so I want to know how often Manolo is above that speed range and how often he serves in a seam. And until he serves 80% of the times in that speed range in the seams, he needs to keep working on his serve. That's his goal. It's not an error to aces ratio or whatever. That's going to be taken into account. But I want to know those things. Or for technical stuff, for the setter, I go and add tags. Is she setting up here or down here? Does she have the right foot forward, the left foot forward? Like technical things. Or tactical things like, okay, I'm watching the opponents and I'm like, did she arch her back? Did she drop her hands? Is she just one hand? Like things like that that are the keys that I teach my players to read and see, right? I want them to see and read these things that I tell them every day in practice. I want them to get better at that and lower the reaction time to that stimuli, okay, to those stimuli, like the what I see and read. So I want them to get better at that, but I have to speak the same language. And I want to be able to, as I watch the video, know, I want to show you all the times that an attacker, oh, she drops her elbow. Okay. When she drops her elbow, she tips 90% of the time, whatever it is. Whatever it is that you look at, that's what I add to the baseline. That's what is actionable in me teaching to players and sharing with coaches and opponents. Then from sports code, it takes me 2 clicks to send it to the phone of the players.
Okay, that's what I wonder. Like, so you can create montages of
super fast, easily, like super easily, and with the multi-angle, I can push it to the phone automatically. Like, boom, it goes to their phone. They get a notification, and I do the same for the opponents' montages. We give them stuff in advance. They watch it. When they come in, it's 15, 20 minutes, and hey, let's go to practice. And the things we show are things related to the same keys we discuss in practice that they need to become good. Reading the game, which we talk so much about as coaches. Reading the game. Reading the game is not knowing the efficiency or whatever. Oh, she's good. Like, it's what are the things that I see, that I can see. And I have to be able to see them, read them. Then I can tell you what to do based on what you see. And hopefully I coach you enough and you get enough reps to be able to translate what you see into a reaction as fast as you can, right?
You're passionate about principles, Giuseppe, then.
Oh, that's all it is. That's what it goes back to. Is not like, yeah, I built all these Excel and R and PDF reports with all the directions and all that, but ultimately is how do I get my players to either play better together, be better players, individuals, or how do I communicate actionable insights that drive a 10 milliseconds faster reaction that takes me to get an extra block touch.
Question. It's what are, now talking about the present, what are things that volumetrics are going to do in order to adapt to these times? Like, the season for all of us NCAA coaches is really unpredictable. What's going to happen? Are the prices going to be the same? And if I'm part of Huddle, do I need to transition into volumetrics or the other way around? Like, what are things that are happening right now with volumetrics in order to adapt to the needs of the present?
So we're not changing prices. No way.
Okay.
And we're introducing kind of what I showed you, really super fast, very basic.
Right.
It's something that a lot of teams start picking up, and that naturally has a cost. But if you already have volumetrics, is different than if you start from scratch. All those usual things, right? But so we're introducing that. Like, I personally want to push out the concept of more subjective, actionable, like personalized, customized. Your philosophy, the software has to fit your philosophy, so that you can use the principles you want.
Okay.
Right. That's what we're pushing out. Other than that, I mean, there's this. We did a series of elite webinars that are really interesting, from all different sports. Are really interesting. A lot of principles and ideas, more than use this, do this, create a table, just principles. So that's more or less, like, ultimately in the long term volumetrics. I mean, yeah, we'll get better, but
question: Would it get
down the road? We will have something like we are getting better. Like, to a lot of people might feel, it's the same thing, but if you understand the principles, it's just a change of mindset more than you don't need to use these or you need to use that. It's really, you coach principles, you want actionable insights. These allows you to do that, and that's the next step. And then there will be a next step and a next step down the road as far as in practice. Like, I do a lot of things in practice with video that are very quick and useful, and now one step at a time. And I share with everybody. It's not like with me or without me, not at all. So I hope that answers at least a bit of your question.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I want to ask you is, for the population that is watching me out there, like, would there be an opportunity for your software at some point to be translated in other languages, including like Spanish in your own language, Italian? Like, do you see that happening at some point?
Yeah, like not in 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years. Sports code, which I'm using, is in all languages, Japanese, Chinese, everything. Huddle, it is like the huddlewebsite.com. There's a lot of internationalization. Volumetrics doesn't have it yet, but anything that will be valuable going forward, it's going to be multiple languages, and I think it will go a long way.
Awesome. Giuseppe, last question, and now I ask you, like, now you're a dad. What are the biggest statistics that you need to know as a dad moving forward? What are some trends that you have seen from little Mia?
So the biggest trends is that based on how good she is, when we'll have a second baby, we will regress to the mean, which means that given how good she is, the second baby would be not very good.
From there,
they have to average out. That's the one thing I know for sure. That's how it's gonna be, and so we'll see how it goes when the new baby will come. And Manolo, I realized that I forgot one thing.
Go for it.
Don't mind 2 minutes. We talked about this actionable stuff, right?
Yeah.
One thing that we created that I wanted to use was this return on investment. So I mentioned how we created these kind of volumetrics ratings, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and by skill. So you still have like normal
Yep.
stats
Yep.
and all of that, and you have a volumetrics rating. Then we create an overall rating that is nothing more than the average of those ratings, weighted based on your skill. Okay, so
Nice.
your skill, like sorry, your position, if you're an outside or whatever. We also added a strength of schedule. Okay,
Hmm.
which is a strength of schedule is the rating for the teams that you played with, uh, an average of those ratings. So basically, how tough is your opposition, right? And with that, we're able to come up with okay, here's an overall rating of how good a player is based by skill.
Wait. This part blows my mind because this could be probably the beginning of potential rankings in the NCAA and other leagues based on this.
Oh yeah, I mean it could be done right away. It's just that, as I said earlier, right before I showed you the PDF, right, I like these fixed rankings. This is more interactive because then you can go in and say, okay, uh, right now I'm winning 49% of the times I won.
Hmm.
Uh, with based on the ratings that I have, I'm projected to win 48% of the times. So we're 1% off, 1.4% off, which is nothing. Uh, the projected win is 47.8%. But what happens if I improve my first ball set out efficiency to 300? And that's see that it updates
Love it.
numbers there.
I love it.
So this is kind of the approach. The idea I have is I want actionable things that I can talk about in practice, but it's also how does a specific thing impact my projected win probability.
And that is available right now.
Yeah, this is something that we've done as for federations mostly,
Okay.
but to me, this is the biggest thing: the return on investment. Right?
Sure.
When I have to pick what am I going to work on today,
Hmm.
I need to know two things: what should I work on that
Hmm.
is going to give me the biggest return on investment, and second, what specific technical things I need to work on for this player. And so this type of approach, the return on investment, gives me what is the most important thing.
Hmm.
And the second piece is those technical keys that I talked about, just tying that to what should he work on. It's serving, great. Okay, he's serving 50% of the times, 80% or above his speed,
Hmm.
50% of the times in the seams. Okay, the biggest improvement that you can make that will make a difference in your overall performance is getting that 50% of times that you serve hard enough and in the right place, getting it up to 60% and then 70% and then 80%. Like, see how directly tied to it, and it's not necessarily number stats, is the language used with the players and the coaches in the gym.
So okay, so and then this is correlating basically, um, the every skill with winning percentage and losing percentage, and then the amount of points being scored by each team. Eventually,
Well, it's more it's a little more complicated than that,
okay.
but and that's why I work with statisticians on this. But basically, these volumetrics rating gets the score, gets the winner right 82% of the times.
Okay.
So it's really good, like scientifically, statistically sound. And by having that, we know how good you are,
Mm-hmm.
and we know an improvement in what skill is going to make the biggest. It's going to have the greatest impact on your overall rating. Knowing that once you're hitting 400, you can like hitting 450 is going to be a rough. If you're hitting 200, hitting 250, okay, there's some room where you can have a big return on investment by improving in that area.
Yeah, so you can actually use this ROI for knowing how to spend your time and maximize
Exactly.
the time, especially in college. For the people watching us outside of the U.S., college in Division One in season, you have 20 hours per week to train with each team, a 4-hour maximum. That includes strength and conditioning, any type of meeting that you have with any player related to athletic related activities, basically. So that's why Giuseppe is presented this way. And then, of course, the situation with the national teams, that they spend the whole year working on their pro teams and then coming back with little time to work with. So for coaches, it's really important to know, if I have 2 months to work with my team, a month and a half, even sometimes like my country, 2 weeks, what do I do? How do I spend my time in those 2 weeks in order to maximize the time and make sure that we get better along the way?
Yeah, so hopefully, I talked about a lot of principles, right? Maybe we didn't go into the cool things. Oh, look at all these formulas, look at all the statistics. But I think that's the important thing. Again, is if there's one thing I learned is simple, like less simple is better than complex. Okay? It doesn't mean there's not complexity behind.
Right.
Behind there's complexity. There's things that you look at, but ultimately is tying anything you do with the way you speak to the players, the keys you use with the players, being able to engage them and involve them. Those are big principles, and really getting our mindset towards something where we get the data to serve us rather than us fitting whatever data format we have to use, but just open it up. And that's why I found this software useful for me. But there's many ways to do it more or less efficiently.
Well, and I hope that, for the people watching out there, that everyone knows that data information, they are really good. It's outstanding that there's so much technology out there that is helping us as coaches. But now it's our job as coaches to continue to get better into interpreting those matters and making sure that we make it, as Giuseppe is talking about, as user-friendly as possible for the most important piece of all here, which is the athletes. So can we create better learners out of them, and can we become better teachers along the way on that? So I want to thank you for the opportunity and the time that you have spent with us today. And hopefully, we get to talk more numbers and more stats at some other point. Congratulations on your merge, or I don't know how you call it.
Yeah, it's an acquisition. So
it's an acquisition
from
Polymetrics to Huddle, and well-deserved success. And we all know the kind of hard work that you have put behind the scenes. I told you before we started the interview that I knew about you before I knew your name. So that's always good, because it meant that you were already doing big things for people that, are making a difference today. So again,
that's all. No, it's making the people around you better. Then everybody grows. Everybody gets better.
Thank you so much. And please be safe and healthy there in Utah. All my best to you in your new phase of fatherhood, and I hope to see you at some point later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everybody, and hopefully it was useful for everybody. I enjoyed the opportunity to come here and just spend a morning talking volleyball and kind of sharing some ideas about the principles and what comes to mind.
Tomorrow we're going to have Trevor Regan in our program, so I look forward to having everyone back at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and let's talk motor learning and growth mindset, especially framing. So I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow again. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.